Bon dia. So we're into part 5 of the book, and it's the last part as we're on page 153 of 183. So I might have read this part earlier in the book because it sounds familiar to me, but it might just sound familiar because I wrote it. But I'll read it again anyway. Music feeds the soul, but knowing your onions goes part of the way to keeping your belly full for the year. And of course, none of it becomes known without a storyteller. We leave school and believe that we should have all the answers. But adults are only grown-up children. Life teaches us how to fight some fears, shows us how to mask some of our sadness, and directs us how to mislead people about some of our uncertainties. But all these sums mean that in the end, people can fail to see who we really are. We do not forget how to laugh, how to find pleasure in the simple things, or how to trust. But it becomes more difficult. And when the occasion to see more clearly presents itself, we should consider ourselves extremely lucky. Chapter 20. The London Olympics. Your neighbour's chicken is always fatter, but can it run faster? My body was anchored in Ilfracombe Harbour, but my mind travelled other tracks in Portugal. The experience was a strange reversal of the previous 4.5 years. The initial 12 months of that period being one in which memories made comparisons and contrasts between England and Portugal inevitable. On occasions, the feelings which were evoked when remembering times I had spent with friends, family, or just in my own company, had needed valiant efforts to fight aside the waves of loneliness and not belonging which threatened to wash me too far from shore, where Stephen would be anxiously waiting. Now, sitting there far from my home, I realised that moments earlier I had been close to being swept away once again by a similar sensation of not knowing where I belonged. Such feelings of uncertainty had largely been non-existent in recent months, years, but were clearly responsible for forcing me to sit down minutes earlier. Before now, the last time England had pulled significant at me was connected with the London 2012 Olympic Games. News about the preparation for the Games was, as would be expected, global. So in Portugal, Steve and I came across newspaper stories about the construction of the stadiums being ahead of schedule, learnt from television and friends about security measures which would be put into place to protect against terrorist attacks. And as the event grew nearer, we heard on the radio speculation about the opening ceremony. When Chicken John asked Stephen and me if we wanted to watch the opening of the sporting competition at his house, we happily accepted, as we had done a couple of years earlier when Prince William married Miss Kate Middleton. There were similarities between how the three of us watched the royal wedding and the opening of the 2012 Olympic Games, but there were marked differences too. The royal wedding had been peppered with quips from Stephen and John, but the spectacle which showcased the United Kingdom was met with awe by all three of us. Being hosted in the country from whence a substantial thread of the World Wide Web had been spun, and where pomp and ceremony are unbeaten, it was fitting that technology and flair was used to tell the story of the island's people and their ingenuity. A lasting memory for me, Stephen, and our host that night, as for many who watched the ceremony, had been seeing the 86-year-old Queen Elizabeth II playing along with the Bond sketch, with Her Majesty parachuting into the Olympic arena. A short chapter. The quote at the beginning about your neighbour's chicken is always fatter is actually the Portuguese equivalent of the grass is always greener on the other side. So there you go. I shall embark on another chapter straight away.